Hello student, my name is Rohit Kumar. I am social science teacher from Maples Academy Day 1. Student, today we are discussing about the chapter number 1, the medieval period. The history of the world can be divided into three broad periods, ancient, medieval and the modern. And each of these periods cover many centuries. And the length of a period may differ from one part of the world to the another. And and the length of the period may be differ from one part of the another and begin around the medieval period began around the 5th century AD and 5th century AD and but around the 18th century AD in India. In this book, in this chapter, you will study about the India and the medieval period. The medieval period in India span a millennium from the 8th to the 18th century AD, and many development during this period distinguish it from the previous period, then ancient period. And This chapter outlines the new developments, the major political development. The medieval period can be divided into the two phases: the early medieval period and the early medieval period to the 13th century, and the later medieval period to the 13th century to the 18th century. Now, the history of the early medieval period is centered on the power of the struggle among the regional kingdoms of both of the north and the south, leading to the to frequent and fall of the kingdoms. And the most of the prominent among these kingdoms were the Rajput kingdoms in the north and the Chola kingdom in the south. And the distinct culture and characteristics of this regional importance of geological knowledge. Knowing a region, geography help us to understand in the history better. In this map, we are the great have a great help. We show the geographical features of a region and the region the region location with the respect to the other region. Such information may be explained why a region proposed was frequently invaded or remained isolated, and so on. Now, the cartographer and the medieval India. The skill of the cartographer of a map may be a map making and the and the practically unknown in ancient India. The worldwide growth of a trade and the expansions of empires during the medieval period created the need of the accurate maps, and the ancient and the European who undertook the king's journey and overland and the sea developed cartography and contact with the Arabs and the European introduced India to the cartographer. The map show the world was drawn the 12th century by the Al Idris, a cartographer from the Morocco. The map has the south of the Arab is India, and above the South India is as an island, and with a further down in a Europe. Now, keeping the records in the medieval kingdom in India, there will be a elaborate the system of administrator. There are large scale trade and many types of the craft and religious cultural activities. All are required the keeping of the records. In the medieval periods, paper come into the wide as a writing material. The paper document that archives. An archive is a collection of the historical documents and records of a government and family or other organizations. Medieval document and inscription include the records of a land revenue and land grants, work for the religious literature and secular work such as and the inscriptions include the records of a land revenue and land grants, work for the religion literature and secular work such as writing on a travelers and history and science. Most of the historical work as a prahast or which are the writing praising the somebody and usually a ruler. One exception is Kalan and Rajatnagari and the history of the Kashmir in Sanskrit were written to the 12th century. As a true historian, Kalhan referred to the different original documents, inscriptions, and coins of a new language. Most scholars and officials all over the India wrote either in a Sanskrit or in a Persian language. A religion language came into the wide use in the religion kingdoms. For example, Telangana was used in Telangana, and Kannada in Karnataka, and Sindhi in a Sindhian Kashmir in a Kashmiri in a Kashmir, and Avdi a form of Hindi in the Uttar Pradesh, and Gujarat in a Gujarati, and Gore in the Gore in the Bengal, and many literary work were composed in these languages, and they were provided the valuable historical information. Now, what about the historians' problem? As there will be no printing press in the medieval India, and all India papers document of the time were manuscripts, handwritten documents, and for the scribes, people who were be the employed to keep the records, made copies of the original document while doing the sometime copied the wrong, and some scribes also put in their own languages and their own thoughts on this subject, and all this gradually change the original text, and historians have to gather the information from this changed document. If they cannot find if they cannot find that original document, then this is a difficulty, because the historian has to study the all the available versions carefully, and cross check the contents against offer dependable evidences.